So we've zoomed out a little bit as we move from chapter 8 to chapter 9, because I'd like us to stop and see, one, just how far we're going, and the fact that here we have a really green area at the Nile River crossing, and we can see it's a little bit deeper green, and it looks fairly green up here, but we're going to start zooming in, and we can start seeing some of the area. We're going to scroll up and keep following our line as they kept walking for quite a while. I honestly don't think I could ever walk this far. And we're going to center on our section here, crossing the Akobo Desert. If we scroll in, we can see there's still some water here, but not much. And as we zoom in, we're seeing landforms kind of change, and we can start seeing scrubland and some green, but not much. We really are getting into a desert. Now remember, deserts are defined based on how much rainfall and precipitation they have a year. We automatically tend to think deserts are really, really hot places. And oftentimes they are, but not always. We do want to consider it is about precipitation and there not being a lot of water. So I can imagine when it does get really hot in this desert, that this probably disappears some. This river's probably going to go away, but we still have some scrubland. So it's not like total sand that we think of as a desert. Like we tend to think of the Sahara as just huge piles of sand. They're not always that, but it's the fact that they don't get a lot. So a lot of these plants and things that are there are going to be drought resistant, meaning they can hold on to water very, very well to survive. But we want to actually come in and take a look right here at some information. So we want to actually come and think about Akir and Naya's villages, and all of a sudden there's these men there. What are your first thoughts about why the men have come to the village? Do you have any opinions about their motives? If you're not sure what we mean by the word motives, go ahead and look it up. But it's really about why are they there? What's their reason for being there? And you're looking at this through Naya's point of view. So you do have to kind of take that with a grain of salt of figuring out what does she think they're there for versus what you think they're there for. Moving on to Salva. How does Uncle encourage Salva to keep walking? What might have happened to Salva without his uncle? And then how can you apply Uncle's strategy to your own life? Remember, we don't just read books just to see what happens to the characters, although sometimes and oftentimes we do care about them. But we also want to see what can we learn from this into our own life. That goes back to the idea of theme. We want to know what we can learn from it. Number 3, what are your first thoughts about the man who did not want Salva to give water to the men lying in the sand? I know how I emotionally reacted the first time I read that part. How did you react? How does this article help you understand the situation known as triage affect your first thoughts about not giving the men water? And then the last one, looking at this chart, which we're going to zoom in on in just a moment, how can we compare the average temperatures here where we live to the temperatures in the Akobo Desert? So let's actually take a look at that right now. We'll give it a second to load, and we can see this is the average temperatures and precipitation. So here are our months. These blue boxes here are how much precipitation we get as measured in millimeters over here. This red line is the mean daily maximum, so the average daily high temperature. This is the average daily low temperature for the mean. And here's like the coldest nights, and here's like the hottest days, things like that. Take a look and compare. How does that in our area? Is it the same? Are the months the same? Is it the same type of temperatures? And I'll also put the link for the triage article referred to in the other question. Don't forget to record all your answers to get credit for this one.